Welcome. Today we're going to journey deep, I mean really deep, into the architecture of Revelation itself. We start, just like the Torah does, with a figure asleep on a stone pillow, out under the stars, about to get a download that will echo through all of eternity. This is the foundational image of prophecy, and it's exactly where we need to begin.
Yeah, and let's really paint that picture. I want you to imagine it like in stunning 4K. Jacob is out cold, the world is washed in this dim, moody moonlight, and then from the heavens, this channel of light comes down. It's not a harsh spotlight, it's more like a structured, almost architectural column of faint light. And standing right at the edge of this channel is this majestic, powerful presence, the angel Gabriel. Now, he's not creating the light, you see, he's more like guiding it. He's a divine translator, catching these faint currents from a much higher signal and rendering them, shaping them into the symbols we know. The ladder, the angels going up and down. This, my friends, is the dream.
Okay, but here's the thing. At the exact same time, something else is going on. Deeper inside that very same channel, kind of behind the beautifully rendered images of the dream, a totally different kind of signal is flowing. This isn't a picture, it's more like a stream of glowing abstract code. It's raw, unprocessed data, flickering back and forth between these moments of intense clarity and then total concealment. It's not telling a story, it is the source code of the story. And this higher, more direct transmission is what the mystics call a vision, or a maret.
And look, this isn't us just getting poetic here. The Zohar, in its commentary on this very story, it lays down the fundamental law of this spiritual physics. It says, "Come and see, a shalom, a dream, is delivered through the hand of Gabriel." That one sentence, that is the key that unlocks everything. It establishes right away that the dream is mediated. It's a processed form of information, passed through a very specific angelic intelligence. This is our ground zero for understanding the two different channels of prophecy.
So here's our game plan for this deep dive. First up, we'll break down these two prophetic channels. Then we're going to zoom in on Gabriel's specific job as the divine translator. After that, we'll tackle the raw data stream they call a vision. From there, we're going under the hood to look at the cosmic blueprint, the Sephiroth, and the soul itself. We'll tie it all together with some really cool modern analogies, and finally, we'll talk about how you can start decoding your own reality.
All right, let's get into it. Section 1, the two prophetic channels. The entire framework we're exploring today really hinges on you getting the core difference between what the Zohar calls a shalom, the dream, and a mar'eh, the vision. And trust me, they are not the same thing, not even close.
Now, this is where things get really fascinating, because it brings up a huge paradox. The dream, the shalom, is actually a lower level of revelation. It's processed, it's filtered, it's handed off by an intermediary, Gabriel. And yet, it's symbolically clearer. It gives you images, a story you can actually follow. Meanwhile, the vision, the mar'eh, is a much, much higher level. It's a raw, direct signal from a way higher spiritual source. But because it's so raw, it's way more concealed, abstract, and just obscure to our conscious minds. Which, of course, leads us to the million-dollar question, right? How on earth can that be? Why would a lower, more filtered message be clearer than a direct pipeline to the source? Well, the answer has everything to do with the role of that middleman. Which brings us to Section 2, Gabriel, the divine translator. Understanding his job is the absolute key to solving that paradox, to seeing why the dream channel, even though it's a lower frequency, is actually easier for us to understand.
So let's really nail down this definition. A shalom, a prophetic dream, isn't a direct broadcast from the heavens. It's a structured, symbolic message that has been actively mediated by Gabriel. His entire purpose here is to render a higher, more abstract signal into a format that our human minds can even begin to grapple with, especially when we're in that receptive state of sleep.
Okay, here's a great way to think about it in modern terms. Think of the dream as a beautifully designed app on your phone. Gabriel is the operating system, like iOS or Android. He takes all the raw, super complex back-end code, the ones and zeros of divine information, and he translates it into a clean, symbolic, easy-to-use interface. He gives you icons, images, a story you can kind of click through. The user interface isn't the code itself, but it's a perfect functional representation of what that code does.
And get this, the Zohar even puts a number on this whole rendering process. It says a dream is 1/60th of prophecy, or more to the point, it's at the 6th degree or level down from pure direct prophecy.
Now that number 6 isn't just random. It signifies the 6 layers of processing, the 6 dimensions of existence that the signal has to pass through and get filtered by before it can show up as a dream we can understand.
Okay, so we've got the dream. Now let's flip the coin and look at the other channel. Section 3, Vision, the raw data stream. If the dream is the user-friendly app, then the vision is what happens when you bypass the App Store, hack the mainframe, and plug your brain directly into the developer's server. A mare, or a vision, is exactly that. It's a direct, totally unprocessed, and for that reason, deeply concealed divine signal. It's coming from a much higher spiritual dimension, a higher sephira, which we'll get into. And because it hasn't been tidied up or translated by someone like Gabriel, it puts all the work of interpretation squarely on the person receiving it. It's not a story, it's the raw material for a story.
Which brings us to the other side of our tech analogy. A vision is like getting a raw, encrypted data dump straight from the main server. It's just a flood of high-level information, but it's totally unintelligible unless you, the prophet, have the advanced software, the refined consciousness to parse and decrypt what it all means.
So a vision has these really distinct characteristics. It comes from the higher sephirots, these divine emanations like Netzach or Hod or even Bina. It doesn't look like a movie. It shows up as these intense, abstract flashes of primary spiritual colors, like a blinding white light that represents pure divine kindness, or an intense red that represents divine severity. These are pure concepts, not pictures. The prophet has to actively interpret this raw signal, and honestly, because of its intensity, it can be totally overwhelming.
Now, to really truly get this, we've got to pop the hood and look at the cosmic engineering behind it all. So, Section 4, the cosmic blueprint. To see how these two channels work, we have to look at the inner architecture of creation itself, the Sephirot, and the parallel architecture that exists inside our own souls. The Kabbalists have this really beautiful way of explaining this. They talk about 2 divine mirrors. The dream, the shalom, is a reflection in what they call the inferior mirror. This is the Sephira of Malchut, or kingdom. It's the final stop, the part that interfaces with our physical world. Think of it like a regular mirror. It reflects the higher lights in a defined, structured, and kind of coarse way. This is Gabriel's home turf. But the vision, the marahe, it comes from the superior mirror, which is the Sephira of Bina, or understanding. This isn't a glass mirror. It's a refined, subtle, conceptual lens. It doesn't reflect images. It transmits pure, unprocessed concepts, straight up. So, the big question is, how do we receive these signals from different mirrors? Well, the key is this incredible concept called the chalom, which is often translated as the divine image. You can think of it as the spiritual blueprint, the inner hardware of the human soul. And it's not just one thing. It's a complex system made up of 3 distinct layers, and each one corresponds to different levels of the Sephirot.
And the word itself, tselem, salem, is basically an acronym for this whole structure. The first letter, tsadi, tsa, links to our foundational consciousness, which is rooted in the lower Sephirot. The second letter, lamed, connects to our emotional core, the heart, which is tied to the mid-level Sephirot. And the final letter, mem, corresponds to our highest intellectual functions, the mind, which is plugged into the upper Sephirot. Your ability to receive revelation depends entirely on which of these layers are switched on inside you.
Now hold on, because this gets even deeper. According to the master Kabbalist, the Ari, our soul's hardware actually goes through 3 stages of development. First, there's Ibor, or conception. This is a state of pure potential, where you can only receive the most basic signals. Then comes Yanika, or nursing, where the emotional layers open up, giving you much greater bandwidth. And the final stage is Gedlut, or maturity. This is when the intellect comes fully online, making the soul capable of receiving and processing the raw data stream of a vision.
And boom, this brings us full circle, right back to our guy Jacob. When he had that famous dream, he was on the run, totally alone. His spiritual state was in Ibor, undeveloped potential. So all he could receive was a processed, rendered message, a dream, a shalom. But years later, after he's built his family, wrestled with an angel, and literally becomes Israel, the Torah says he receives Marat Halayla, visions of the night. His internal hardware, his tselem, had gotten a major upgrade. He had reached Gadlut, spiritual maturity. He was now capable of handling the raw data stream directly.
All right, now for my favorite part, Section 5, modern analogies. Let's take all this ancient, heavy-duty mysticism and translate it into language we can all get our heads around. Because it's one thing to talk about Sephirot, it's another to really feel it with concepts we use every day.
So, how can we really picture these channels in a way that just clicks for us today?
we're going to use two really powerful analogies, one from the world of video games and one from cosmic engineering.
Okay, let's start with the video game one. A dream, a shalom, is like when a non-player character, an in-game guide, let's call him Gabe, pops up on your screen. He gives you a really clear, structured quest. Go to the Shining Mountain, find the Silver Sword. The instructions are symbolic, sure, but they're clear. A vision, or a mare, well, that's like you're exploring some deep, hidden dungeon and you find this ancient glowing tablet covered in encrypted text. There's no guide. The tablet contains deep, profound secrets about the game's world, but it's totally on you to spend the time and build up the skill to decode it.
And now for the cosmic engineering version. The Dream Channel is basically a data rendering layer. It takes a really complex signal and presents it in a way you can understand. Just like your web browser takes a bunch of HTML code and turns it into a visual web page you can scroll through. The Vision Channel, though, that is the raw signal transmission itself. It's like being a radio astronomer who isn't seeing a picture of a star but is receiving the raw electromagnetic pulses directly from space. You need incredibly advanced computers to turn that raw signal into a map of the universe. It is direct access to the source code of reality.
And all of this brings us to our final and maybe the most important section, decoding your own reality. Because this cosmic architecture, this whole ladder, it's not just some story about ancient prophets, it is a blueprint of the potential that exists inside each and every one of us.
You want to know the ultimate example of this potential? It's Moses. His internal spiritual hardware, his slem, was so refined, so fully developed, that he reached a level even beyond vision. He could process that raw, unmediated data stream not in a dream, not in a trance, but in real time while he was wide awake, a state the mystics call bihakitz. That's what the Torah means when it says he spoke with God face to face, like a person speaks to their friend. He was getting the raw data from the highest superior mirror, but with all the clarity of a perfectly rendered dream.
So, here's the bottom line. Jacob's ladder wasn't just some physical thing in a dream. The mystics teach that the ladder is placed right inside each of us. It is the ladder of our own consciousness, the architecture of our own soul that connects heaven and earth. Our life's work, really, is to climb it, to refine our own inner hardware.
And so we leave you with a final question to think about. As you go through your own life, what messages are you receiving? Are they the clear, symbolic stories of dreams rendered for your benefit? Or are you starting to pick up on that deeper, more abstract, raw data stream of vision that's flickering just beneath the surface of your reality? Which channel is open for you?
Thank you for joining us for this complete journey through the Pardes. We hope these ancient truths help you and your family improve your own dimensions this week. If you enjoyed this full chapter deep dive, please like, subscribe, and share which part of the journey touched your soul in the comments.
We'll see you in the next chapter.